Welcome to the deep dive. This week we're looking skyward, charting the really rapid developments in the global space race.
He's moving incredibly fast.
We're seeing this fascinating mix, private sector innovation pushing boundaries, geopolitical ambitions heating up, and, well, complex government programs hitting some snags.
That's right. Our sources over the past week, they really highlight some key things. Major steps in reusable rockets, but also escalating competition around the moon and some pretty significant strategic shifts in U.S. space policy that you really need to be aware of.
And our goal here, as always, is to deliver the facts calmly, professionally.
Yes, lay out the different potential courses of action for decision makers, present the various perspectives, all, without bias, without stirring up unnecessary fear.
This clear, multidimensional analysis comes to you powered by Stylo News. It's an AI-driven news application pulling intelligence from hundreds of global sources to give you, the listener, that on-demand clarity.
And we should also thank our sponsor, ProWave AI. Their support helps ensure this kind of data-driven analysis gets out there.
Okay, so let's get into it. This moment in space history, we really have to start with the commercial side, where the pace is just, well, blistering. The biggest story this week, SpaceX's Starship, Flight 11.
Yes, a really pivotal moment. That happened October 18th, 19th, launching from South Texas. And what's really important to understand is that this flight, it was the final kind of high-stakes test for the Block 2 version of Starship.
Right, before they move on to the next generation.
Exactly. They're transitioning now. And Starship, its track record has been, well, mixed. Reliability has been the big question mark hanging over it.
So what made this 11th flight such a key success then? What changed?
Well, demonstrating reliability, first off, and showing the full mission capability. The flight lasted over an hour, which is significant in itself. That gave them time to test complex high-altitude maneuvers.
Okay.
But crucially, it deployed 8 Starlink satellites. That validates it not just as a test vehicle, but as an actual working deployment platform.
But the real technical drama, the bit that really impacts the economics, that was the booster recovery, wasn't it? The Super Heavy stage.
Absolutely, that was huge. The Super Heavy booster stage, it completed a successful, controlled landing right in the ocean.
Controlled being the key word there.
Absolutely. It proves out the incredibly sophisticated guidance and control systems they need for future landings back on land or on the launch tower itself eventually. This success, it dramatically lowers the perceived risk around the whole system.
Which must boost confidence.
Immensely. Not just for, the far-off Mars missions, but for the immediate job of lunar transport for NASA.
So it's kind of a double win for SpaceX then. You've got Starship making strides towards deep space goals, while at the same time, their dominance in Earth orbit internet connectivity is just accelerating.
It's relentless, that expansion.
Yeah.
Pretty much concurrently with the Starship flight, they launched another 28 Starlink satellites, this time from Vandenberg out in California.
Just keeps growing.
When you look at the sheer numbers, these constant launches, they just solidify Starlink as the biggest satellite constellation ever. It's really changing the game for global internet access. A revolution, really.
Now, here's where it gets interesting on a more local level. These huge tech projects, they always have an impact on the ground, right, in their home bases. What did the sources say about South Texas?
Yeah, there's definitely a strong, positive local story developing there. SpaceX's huge presence near Boca Chica, it's translating directly into community engagement. Things like educational programs like Project Vortex.
Project Vortex? What's that?
It gives local high school students actual hands-on aerospace experience. It's quite something.
So it's not just about rockets and satellites then. It's strategically building that future workforce right there in the Rio Grande Valley.
Precisely. It's a long-term investment. You see this blend of, bleeding-edge tech development alongside a very deliberate effort to cultivate the talent pool they'll need to keep this pace up.
And that pace, well, it has to be seen against the backdrop of global competition, which brings us squarely to China's space program. It's definitely rising.
Oh, absolutely. If the U.S. is pushing commercially, China is pushing geopolitically, the pressure on Western programs is definitely mounting. You can see it in their launch cadence.
What happened this past week specifically?
Well, we saw the successful launch of their Kinetica 1 rocket from Jiuquan. That deployed 2 Chinese satellites, yes, but also 1 Pakistani Earth observation satellite.
Okay, so an international customer there. And that wasn't the only one.
No, not at all. We also saw the Legion 1 Y8 rocket go up. that carried 3 satellites, including another Pakistani remote sensing bird.
So multiple launches, multiple international payloads just in 1 week.
Right. And if you connect the dots, look at the bigger picture.
Right.
The key takeaway isn't just China's domestic launch capability, which is impressive in itself. It's their rapidly growing role as a commercial launch provider on the world stage.
That's the really crucial shift, isn't it? I remember hearing the numbers for 2024, something like 68 launches.
That's the figure, yes. 68 launches in 2024. So beyond just the sheer number, think about the implications, geopolitical and economic, of them attracting clients like Pakistan.
It directly challenges the established players, US, Europe.
Exactly. They're offering reliable, frequent, and probably quite competitive launch services. And in doing so, they're building these economic and political ties through space cooperation. This pace, this robustness, it just intensifies that whole geopolitical dimension, especially with China sticking to their goal, astronauts on the moon by 2030.
And that 2030 lunar goal puts enormous pressure back on NASA's timelines, doesn't it? Which leads us right into the core conflict-making headlines this week, the Artemis program, specifically Artemis the Third.
Yeah, the situation there is, well, it's complicated. Artemis the Third, that's the mission meant to land humans back on the lunar surface. But the plan, the architecture, it relies completely on Starship acting as the human landing system, the HLS.
And Starship, despite the recent success, it's still unproven for astronauts, right? And that track record, 6 failures in the 10 flights before this latest one.
Correct. That history makes people nervous, understandably. And it's not just the vehicle itself, it's the mission profile. You keep hearing about orbital refueling. Why is that such a massive hurdle for people listening?
Explain that a bit.
It's probably the single biggest technical challenge for the whole mission. To get to the moon and back, Starship needs a colossal amount of fuel. That means multiple launches from Earth, maybe a dozen or more, just to fill up one Starship lander in Earth orbit before it even begins its journey to the moon.
Wow. A dozen launches for one mission.
It requires perfect timing, perfect coordination, launch after launch success, and this complex technology for transferring cryogenic liquids in orbit. Something that's never been done at this scale before, ever.
So given those challenges, those delays, the Artemis the Third date has slipped. We're looking at 2028 now, maybe later.
That's the projection, yes.
Yeah.
2028 or potentially later. And NASA sees that delay as a direct threat to maintaining that competitive edge over China.
Which is where we see this clash between the decision makers really heating up. It seems to expose a real tension between, government oversight and the private sector's preferred speed.
It's palpable. The friction between NASA acting administrator Sean Duffy and Elon Musk.
Let's break down NASA's move here. Duffy's statement reopening the contract. What's the strategic signal?
Duffy stated publicly that SpaceX is behind schedule, period. And given the urgency driven by that competition with China, NASA felt it had to take steps to mitigate the risk.
So the necessary course of action, in their view,
Was to reopen the big $4.4 billion lunar lander contract to competition. This is a huge policy signal. It says NASA isn't betting everything on Starship anymore. They want redundancy for these critical national missions.
a shift towards having backups.
Definitely. Spreading the risk.
And Musk's response, predictably perhaps, came via social media, Platform X.
Correct. He publicly criticized Duffy, called him Sean Dummy, which, well, it's unprofessional, obviously. But it does highlight that intense frustration when you have this agile private company working on its own aggressive timelines, bumping up against the, bureaucratic realities and political pressures of a government agency.
But did he back away from the mission?
No, despite the criticism, Musk also reaffirmed SpaceX's commitment. He expressed confidence that Starship will get the job done.
Okay, so reopening that contract means NASA now has other options, alternative courses of action. Who are the main contenders stepping back into the ring for that HLS money?
Well, it brings the established giants right back into play. You got Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' company with their Blue Moonlander concept, and Lockheed Martin, a longtime NASA contractor.
Big aerospace names.
Definitely. But we should also keep an eye on some of the potentially more specialized players. Tom Mueller, for instance.
The propulsion expert.
SpaceX's first employee, that's the one. His new venture, Impulse Space. They're not going for the huge lander initially. They're focusing on mid-sized cargo landers, aiming to fill what could be a crucial logistics gap by 2028, carrying anywhere from half a ton up to maybe 13 tons.
That focus on logistics, on cargo, feels important. It suggests a future needing multiple types of vehicles, not just one big lander.
Exactly. For sustained presence, you need a whole supply chain.
Now, despite all this drama around the Artemis III lander contract, the very next step, Artemis II, seems to be moving forward.
It is, yes. Artemis II, that's the mission with a crew, but just orbiting the moon, not landing it, seems to be hitting its milestones. NASA recently finished assembling the Orion capsule, nicknamed Integrity, on top of the huge SLS rocket,
And the schedule for that.
currently targeting early 2026. So it shows NASA's committed to pushing forward with the parts of the Artemis program that are technically ready, even with the uncertainty around the later landing mission.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly into our final segment, looking ahead, analyzing the future trajectories based on everything that's happened. Starting with Starship itself. Block 2 succeeded. What's next? What's the plan for V3?
Well, development isn't slowing down. Starship V3 is already in the works, and it represents a pretty major leap. It's going to be significantly bigger, maybe 140, 150 meters tall.
Wow.
And crucially, it will feature the more powerful Raptor 3 engines. More thrust, more capability.
And they're changing how they recover it too, right? Moving away from ocean landings for the booster.
That's the plan. The recovery system is evolving to maximize reuse speed. They're implementing this novel system using giant robotic arms on the launch tower, they call them chopsticks, designed to literally catch the super heavy booster as it comes back down.
Catch the booster. That sounds ambitious.
Extremely. But that level of rapid reuse is absolutely key if they want to drive down launch costs dramatically.
And the main technical goal for V3, tying back to Artemis III, is getting that orbital refueling working reliably.
That capability is absolutely the lifeblood for any sustained lunar presence, or for Mars missions down the line. If SpaceX can keep up their aggressive pace, we could see orbital flights of Starship V3 starting as early as 2026.
And if they hit that timeline,
It would completely change the equation for deep space travel. It really would.
this bigger, better Starship V3, it also connects back to what we discussed earlier, commercial dominance, especially global internet.
Absolutely. The huge size of V3 is needed to launch the next generation of Starlink satellites, Starlink V3. These things are monsters, 2 tons each.
2 tons per satellite.
Yes, and they promise a tenfold jump in bandwidth, targeting speeds up to 1,000 gigabits per second. Their deployment, also planned for 2026 using Starship, will just massively enhance global connectivity. It further cements that commercial control of crucial low Earth orbit infrastructure.
Now, beyond all the tech and the geopolitics, there's this underlying societal discussion happening too, isn't there? About the language we use, the ethics of pushing out into space, the whole space colonization debate.
Yes, there is. And it's a debate led largely by academics, ethicists. Their perspective seems quite unified on this. They tend to reject the term colonization because of its, heavy historical baggage. Exploitation, resource extraction. It carries very negative weight.
So what's the alternative viewpoint?
The common view advocates instead for responsible, cooperative space exploration, with 2 main priorities: focusing on restoring and protecting Earth first, and secondly, treating extraterrestrial environments with respect, not just rushing out there.
It's a really important counter-narrative to the sheer speed and, frankly, dominance driving so much of the current space race. Okay, finally then, pulling together all these threads, the different courses of action, the policy signals, what are, say, the top 3 things listeners should really watch for in the near future?
Right, 3 key things. First, definitely watch the outcome of NASA's competitive decision on that Artemis III lunar lander contract. Who gets the money? Does SpaceX keep it all? Does Blue Origin get a piece? That decision tells us a lot about NASA's risk strategy going forward.
Okay, number 1, the lander contract decision.
Second, the next test flight of the bigger Starship, the Block 3 version. That's the immediate proof point for SpaceX's continued progress and increased capability.
Number 2, Starship Block 3 flight.
And third, keep an eye out for the debut launch of Blue Origin's heavy lift rocket, New Glenn. It's been long awaited. And it's still an if, but if it flies successfully, it will significantly shake up the commercial launch market. More competition.
Right. Number 3, New Glenn's debut.
Okay.
This deep dive, it really lays bare the incredible urgency driving the space sector right now, both in the U.S. and internationally. The sources show this constant tension between, pushing innovation at breakneck speed and the strategic need for caution, for redundancy.
It's a balancing act.
It really is. And it leaves us with a thought, maybe a provocative one for you, the listener, to ponder. Should the perceived urgency of this high-stakes space race, often fueled by geopolitical rivalry, override the strategic wisdom of having contractor backups? and maybe more profoundly override the ethical debate about how we should explore the cosmos responsibly and sustainably, something to consider as these events continue to unfold.
And this entire analysis, delivered, we hope, with precision and neutrality, was synthesized for you by Stylo News. Stylo is an AI-powered global intelligence platform. It works by meticulously processing complex information from countless traditional news sources, but also real-time social media data, including critical sentiment analysis from platforms like X, using advanced OSINT open-source intelligence techniques to generate these comprehensive reports.
For more of this kind of on-demand, AI-powered intelligence tailored to your interests, we absolutely invite you to subscribe to Stylo News. You can find out more, sign up for personalized reports. It's all at www.stylonews.com.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the very dynamic landscape of space exploration and global competition today. We really appreciate you listening in.
Yes, thanks for tuning in. Hope it provided some clarity. And please do follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platforms to stay updated. Until next time.